Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and broadcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. What's good, David? Anything new?
Well, I took a couple of days off this week, and so the good news is I got to hang out and watch some tennis, the Miami Tennis Open with my wife. The bad news is work piles up when you're gone. So today was quite a busy day, but that's the price you pay for taking a little bit of time off. But now I'm looking forward to just sitting back and having a little conversation with our guests and talk data.
Yes, absolutely. And glad you got that time. And now you get to do some meaningful work today. And yes, we're going to have a great conversation. Today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome Amit Deshpande, and he is the Global Chief Marketing Sciences Officer at RAPP. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Welcome to the show, Amit.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really happy to have you on the show today and appreciate you taking the time. And so why don't we have you kick it off for us and give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background about you and how you got into this position you're in today and what you guys are doing for your customers.
Absolutely. So I started in the marketing science space a long time back before it was cool. And lot of that was driven by my passions for data, for science, for technology. And I'm an engineer by education, and I had opportunities early in my career to solve marketing specific business problems using data science, using analysis. And that led to a 25 years worth of experiences in leading many different marketing science teams at FedEx, and then at Epsilon, and then subsequently at Blend 360. And really, currently I'm in the Global Chief Marketing Sciences Officer role at RAP. And at RAP, we are a marketing agency, and I really felt a deep connection with the mission and vision at RAP versus my passions in life, and which is really around activating growth with precision and empathy at scale for our clients. Right, and that essentially involves understanding our clients, customers, whether those are consumers, whether those are businesses, at a very granular level of specificity, so that the next set of experiences, differentiating experiences, could be deployed at scale in an always-on fashion, and where we are continuously improving and driving impact for our clients. So I love my role. I enjoy working with clients and our team in furthering the impact with marketing science.
That's awesome. I love the story. I mean, you're an engineer at heart, right?
Yes,
and a marketer. And I think today more than ever, that's so important, right? I mean, marketing has become so data centric and so scientific that I think that today you're really in sort of the perfect role for yourself. Is that right?
Absolutely. I get paid to do what I love to do.
That's awesome.
That is great. So, Amit, speaking of what you love to do, we'd love to hear from you on this first topic. With all the developments with AI, what are the top implications or possibilities for marketers?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. And ever since AI is a topic that has been near and dear to my heart for many years, but particularly since the release of ChatGPT, the progress in the space has just been phenomenal. And pretty much every client of ours is wanting to benefit from the possibilities of AI, possibilities within AI. And many clients are kind of like, okay, so what does all of this mean for me? What is it that I need? How can I drive the change within my organization? What is it that I could do in the next 3 months, and at the same time ensure that we are marching towards the long term in a deliberate fashion. So those are the types of questions that most clients have. And before we go into the specificity of how exactly to approach those, um, there are probably three broad implications that I might bring up, particularly for the marketer. One, with AI, there is a greater degree of automation that is possible now. Okay, and it's predicted that the US productivity will almost grow by 2x, and the impact on GDP because of those types of productivity improvements is expected to be in billions and trillions of dollars, right? So a lot of that is driven by a greater degree of automation on what happens on a day-to-day basis for the marketer and supporter functions. And what does that mean? So, as an example, whether I'm a data scientist or a technologist who's writing SQL code or Python code or code in any particular language, a significant part of that code could be automatically generated using AI tools, and then the person is kind of refining that to take it to the final stage. And that's true not for many different types of activities, whether that is code creation, or whether that is taking meeting notes and action items, or whether that is actually creating content at scale in a production like fashion, whether that's audio content, whether that's video, or whether that is image, so on, or text, so on and so forth. So automating those types of activities is something that is a very real implication. So that's one. The second point that I would make is around insight democratization. Many companies today have a lot of data in many databases. Many companies today have many different reports and dashboards that exist. And for most companies, it is standard practice that in spite of having the data, in spite of having all of those reports, to answer specific business questions, people do manual ad hoc analysis, which then translates from, let's say, a database to some form of Excel or a PowerPoint and a story store, right? So the insight with AI, now it is possible to have interfaces that allow for marketers to ask questions in English, and then using all of the information and all of the data that is at the disposal of an organization, specific insight driven action answers could be provided, and because of that, one no longer has to go through 20 different reports for a specific question, or any analysis could be done a lot quicker because of conversational AI type of capabilities. So because of that, a business person can access insight in a more efficient way than ever possible before. So first one was automation. Second one is around democratizing insight. And then third piece that I would say is that it's because of AI, particularly for the marketer, it's possible to accentuate the person in personalization. Okay, so what I mean by that, just to give an example, historically organizations have been not very good at storing and managing the metadata of various different types of content, particularly audio, video, images. Those images exist in some type of a system, that content exists in some type of a system, but there isn't enough information about the metadata. And so because there isn't enough information about the metadata, such as, okay, hey, what is the object in the image, or what is the are there people involved, or what type of activity are they performing? Since those types of metadata historically has not existed in structured form, it's been difficult to figure out what type of content works well for what type of audience, right? But now, because of AI, it's possible to decompose that content regardless of how it has been stored in the past, get format portable, correlate the metadata with performance, and then create the personalized content at scale to deliver those experiences. And these types of things, and the content decomposition and creation at scale, as well as the progress with decision engines, is now making it possible to have personalized experiences that are always on and continuously improving.
Yeah. So these are all really, really good points, and there's so much to unpack there. But you crossed, you basically went across three different ideas of automation. Sorry, insights and personalization. And so I think that those are three really great examples of how people can use AI. When you have when you're talking to a customer, about how to get started, usually the idea would be to try to find what is the simplest way for them to get the most, the most out of it, AI. So what would you recommend there? Like, where should somebody start? Is it automation? Is it insights? For me, I think personalization is a little more complex, right? So is it maybe one of those, or is there something else that is a better sort of entry level place for a marketer to start when it comes to AI?
Yeah. So one way to think about it is that any company should think about, okay, what's the roadmap relative to where the company is today. What is the end state, or what is the desired state that they're working towards, and relative to the current state and the desired state, what could be the roadmap, and how can AI help accelerate and amplify that roadmap for greater impact. And in one should think in terms of creating that type of roadmap, and that roadmap could be along many different dimensions, including the data aspects, technology aspects, people, process, change management, or governance. And one would kind of start with at least such type of a high level roadmap, such that there is a north star that a company is working towards. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of make this into a 5-year project that where you wait 5 years to see the impact. So it is very important to have quick wins, enough tangible results in the next 1 month, in the next 3 months, so that there is positive momentum that is created within the organization. And in creating those types of quick wins and positive momentum, there are several different areas that could be the initial starting areas for an organization. Take for an example the content point that we discussed earlier, right? So most companies today have some type of content, and it exists somewhere in the organization, whether that is the emails that have been sent, whether that are the images that populate the content on the website, or whether it's the audios or the videos that make up any type of marketing communication. That content exists somewhere. It's quite easy today, right, in a matter of days and weeks, to ingest all of that unstructured content, synthesize it, decompose it into various different metadata components, and correlate those metadata components to performance to figure out what is it that works for whom, and then use that to then inform, let's say, the next email campaign that somebody might be driving, or to drive the next experience on the website. And this doesn't have to be end to end personalized right at the beginning. It could be kind of an evolution or the next step in the journey for a campaign that exists today, and it's kind of taking it to the next level, right? So starting with something like that, or even the companies today have lot of data in various different databases. So how can AI be used to make predictions using all of that data, such as, for example, what are the products that somebody is likely to buy that they have bought before but they're likely to repurchase, versus what are the products that they have never bought before but they look like somebody who should purchase those products, and when are they likely to purchase those. Making those types of predictions at very granular levels in terms of the product family that a company may have is now very possible in a matter of days and weeks. And as those predictions are made, how can that then inform the next website experience or the next email campaign are some initial proof of concept type of projects that companies could have that then create the positive momentum.
I love that example because it's something that like Amazon's been doing for years, right? And it's finally getting to the point where a smaller company can actually consider doing these same types of personalizations, that were really unthinkable that only a giant like Amazon could have done just a few years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely. It's incredible. Well, with AI being dependent on data, how can data be made more actionable from your perspective, Amit?
Yeah. So it's this is a great question. Thank you for asking that. And as much as I appreciate the enthusiasm and the possibilities with AI, um, I also equally appreciate the challenges that organizations are dealing with in being data ready so that the possibilities from AI become real. And while there is a lot of data, particularly with AI with the possibilities with AI, it's important to know what data exists, how what permissions do we have from the consumer to on how to use it, when to use it, so that we are always privacy compliant and that we use AI in a responsible and in an ethical way. So preparing the organization for that type of a data infrastructure and readiness is a very critical dependency. Okay, however it all doesn't have to be solved on day 0 or day 1. That can be an evolution over time. Okay, however, there are some specific steps that could be taken to make data actionable. One is, as data exists across the different databases or silos within organizations, what are some of the key connectors that can be used to unify data? Some of those could be IDs such as an individual ID or a household ID or a business ID or a loyalty ID or an email ID, those types of deterministic IDs that can be used to connect data. Second type, particularly in the third party cookieless world, where first party information is not available, it's going to be important to have the right type of taxonomies in place so that wherever ID level integration cannot happen, what's the next level of taxonomy or cohort definition that can be used to aggregate data across the different channels. So having those taxonomies in place and using consistent standardized taxonomies across the different channels, particularly within marketing, is something that is a very critical step that organizations need to take, but where most organizations are not fully there yet. Okay. However, while those definitely are challenges, there are a lot of possibilities that exist today, even in the current environment. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Is it's very possible now to have all of the data kind of translated, let's say millions and billions of rows in terabytes, petabytes worth of databases, taking all of that data and translating it into, let's say, a data vector that might include 50 or 100 attributes that really drive the most impactful use cases. And how one would go about creating those top 50 to 100 attributes could be using let's say aspects such as machine learning. Take as an example, in marketing, one is kind of trying to optimize an interaction and then the journey that is made up of many different interactions over a period in time. In optimizing an interaction, one is making decisions such as, hey, who am I talking to? When I'm in talking to them, what product am I upselling or cross-selling? At what price point or with what offer and with which discount, right? And which channel would be most appropriate for the next interaction? What should be the right timing for that interaction? What's the right message that should I have, whether it's a value message, whether it's a price message, or and what's the content that might be most personalized. So these types of decisions are getting made during every interaction and interactions across the longitudinal journey or experience, right? Now it's very possible with AI to have predictions or model scores for each one of these decisions. And those types of scores can be like somewhere between 25 to 50 scores that can then be activated across channels, whether that's for email decisions, whether that's for website decisions, whether that's for call center decisions, whether that is for direct mail decisions. So it's now becoming possible, and it's very exciting that all of this petabytes and all these huge databases can all be kind of merged into like 50 attributes that could exist on every customer that an organization could act on.
This is like, it's so interesting because it's rare that we talk to, you know, we often talk to marketers, we often talk to data people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation to talk to somebody that's both, because, you know, we talk to all these data people and they talk about how they're collecting data, and then you talk to marketers about how they want to use the data. And there's often this disconnect, and that disconnect can be exactly one of the things that you hit on. You have data in different silos, and there's not always a way to connect the two. And you said something specifically there about connecting data across silos with a standard ID. You know, what ID are we going to connect, you know, use to standardize that connection? And it's something that often marketing teams and engineering teams aren't, you know, communicating at that level because they're talking different languages. So it's really cool to hear you kind of, because you speak both languages, to say that, because that's a really important point that I think a lot of people need to listen to and realize that, well, you need to make sure that all this data you're collecting in these two different channels, you're collecting maybe all this transactional data, and then you're collecting maybe all of this, data about first party data about your customers. And then you have this marketing data, which might be data about potential customers. And if you're not standardizing them on some sort of ID, then you're not going to be able to connect all those different silos together. And so I think that's a really important point that you made there. And I just wanted to further express that and make sure that people are hearing that, because a lot of times, they're not seeing the full picture because they don't have the experience across both the data engineering and the marketing side.
Absolutely. And to add to that a little bit, David, it's important to not get lost in creating the ideal ID solution that might take 5 years to build. Okay, so it's important to tap into the data that exists today. It's important to be prepared for the cookieless world, and it's important for organizations to have first-party driven strategies, right? And that could include deterministic approaches as well as probabilistic approaches, or a combination of the two. And equally, the other aspect that is also important is to be prepared to act at not only the ID, the individual, the household, the business level, but it's also important to operate at a level of cohort summarization or taxonomy that can transfer, that can go across channels when IDs don't. It's important to be prepared for that as well in this evolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great point. And yeah, I don't know. There's so much we could even still unpack there in terms of the ID. But any more you would want to share there on that note, David, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I to your point, Jesse, what you just said about the ID, like this is becoming more and more important now, because the ID was always cookies before, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we can always, get data. There's always third-party data that we can attach to that because of this and because of that. And with that going away, the ID becomes important, because what is that ID going to be? Is your internal ID going to be an email address? Yeah, maybe if you're collecting that information. And if you're lucky enough to be able to collect that information, if you're in the mobile world, maybe it's a mobile ID, but mobile IDs are difficult these days as well, because people click ask not to track, and then that mobile ID is no longer trackable. And so, you need to like Amit said, you have to standardize on an ID. Is that going to be your, some internal ID? Is it going to be an email? Is it going to be some other identifier? IP addresses are something that a lot of people are talking about right now, because of the deprecation of cookies. And people are trying to say, okay, well, I'll use IP addresses for anonymization as an anonymized ID. And yeah, that works to an extent at the household level. And you can identify, the household and individuals of the household, and you can retarget to those individuals, which is often really helpful. But then there's this talk of is Google going to obfuscate IP addresses? So there's a lot of uncertainties, in the future with respect to IDs. And so that's where, going back to what Amit said, first party data, whenever you can collect it is going to be your most valuable data. That's going to enable you to at least know your customers throughout their journey.
Absolutely, David. And one point that you made that I wanted to hit on a little bit is to tap into the possibilities here. There needs to be a set of leaders and set of experts within any organization, particularly those who are in the marketing science, data science type of space, where there is a level of leadership that has an understanding and comfort level to equally interface with all aspects of business, right? So whether it is the quantitative know-how, or whether it is the technology, interfacing with the technology teams, or whether it is interfacing with business, whether it is working with leadership to drive change management and governance, it many times the marketing science or the data science or the AI teams kind of become the common unifier, if you would, in terms of getting the organization together and being the translator, and being the solution provider, or the bridge, if you would, in terms of how best to move forward from the current state to the desired state. So as organizations kind of prepare themselves to be AI ready, having those types of functions within organizations, as well as with partners, is something that is one of the key success factors.
Agree, 100%.
Yeah.
That was a great topic to get into. I'm glad you both brought it up. But to sort of transition into our third topic, Amit, how are you making AI real for your clients?
Right. So just to build up on the conversation so far. So one is it's important to have a broad roadmap in place that takes into account what is the desired state or the key business objectives that any organization wants to make progress on, and what is the roadmap from a people, process, technology, change management, governance point of view that an organization has, that one is marching towards. And while one is working towards the medium and long term, what are the quick win opportunities that could be used to create positive momentum? So that's one area where we are definitely helping our clients with, in terms of preparing that transformation plan. And then as that plan gets prepared, in implementing the quick wins, it really boils down to not getting lost in the sausage making, but it's really about what are the top use cases that one could prioritize and could be implemented that would produce real impact. And just to use the examples from the past, hey, what can be done so that content can be decomposed, insight generated, and there could be content personalization at that scale, whether initially, let's say, beginning with one channel, and let's say such as an email, and then expand that to the website, to the call center, to direct mail, and then let's say to paid media, right? So it's identifying those types of opportunities, or even building on the product predictions case. We are increasingly finding that our clients are benefiting from we have a library of 800 or so algorithms that are pretty standardized, in which we have baked in our best practices from our knowledge from across industries and across clients. And those have been prepared where they're 80% ready, and then they're 20% customized to a particular client and to a particular use case. And those then help create those 50 to 100 attributes that I was referring to earlier, that can be quickly activated for specific use cases. And those attributes that I was referring to help with making key decisions, such as, okay, which customer or prospect should I target? When I talk to them, what is the product that I should upsell or cross sell? Should that be with a discount? Should that be with an offer? And if so, what should that offer be? What would be the right channel? Should that be email? Should that be direct mail? Should that be an inbound channel versus an outbound channel? Right? And what is the right timing for that interaction, particularly when it's an outbound decision to be made? And what is the message that would resonate best? And what's the personalized content that might drive greater impact? So these attributes kind of help make each one of those decisions. And then we are helping put in the decision engines that can then drive those experiences in an always on type of a fashion. And initially and decision engines many times get interpreted as you buy a decision engine, you plug it in, and it's done. And it's rarely like that. It is something that needs to be planned for and nurtured over a period in time. You bring in a decision engine for always on active experiences. You, let's say, start with, let's say, integrating 1, 2, 3 experiences within a particular channel. You expand across more use cases within the channel. You add the next channel, so on and so forth. And that's how then an organization evolves. But in all of this, essentially, what we are doing is we are bringing together 3 broad sets of decisions or decisions that tend to get made. And that is, what data does an organization have, and how can that data be used to drive impact? So it's around having connected data. Second is, what is the content that organizations have? What learning can be had from that content, and what's the next set of content that should be created? So connected data, connected content, and then the third piece, which is around connected decisions. So as data, content, decisions come together, that then translate into always on, continuously improving experiences across channels and across the full marketing funnel.
All right. So I got to ask you this question, Amit. There's a wide range of listeners, from enterprise to small business that are listening to this podcast. And I think for the small business owner, they're listening to this going, this is overwhelming. How can I do all of this? But I think from their perspective, I'm going to ask the question for them, where can I start? Where's the simplest place for someone that is a small business operator or marketer within a small business, where they can get started and feel like they're going to get, from this small step, get some return on their investment?
Yeah. So no, thank you. And while there are definitely enterprise-wide solutions that work for large enterprises and medium scale enterprises, those definitely exist. The good thing about what AI has made possible is that the tools and the technologies exist today that makes it actually very easier for smaller companies than actually for the large companies. The larger companies have to deal with greater challenges around integration across many different functions, across many different channels, across many different technologies. So larger companies have those greater challenges. But with the tools that are getting embedded with AI today, it's becoming easier and easier for smaller companies actually to benefit from it. Take as an example, if one's having objectives such as, hey, I want to acquire more customers, or for the customers that I acquire, I want to grow them. And in wanting to grow them, I'm going to have a set of campaigns, whether those campaigns are in, let's say, email campaigns, or whether those campaigns are social media type of campaigns. It's now very doable for small companies to, let's say, benefit from AI in what they're already doing today, using the tools that they are using today. So whatever tool that is being used, let's say, for example, to deploy an email, those tools today are getting equipped with AI capabilities that are then making the predictions that say, okay, hey, what product or what content would result in greater engagement. Those tools that already exist in the marketplace need to be activated for those small companies using the data that they already have. Okay, so the tools are there, the data tends to be there. It's a question of bringing it all together. And so I would say, for particularly for small companies, think in terms of what is it that would produce the biggest impact. If somebody is focused on acquisition versus if somebody is focused on retention versus if somebody is focused on reactivation, hone in on one of those use cases. For one of those use cases, let's hone in on one of the channels that's been most impactful for you, and then let's drive that impact within that for that use case.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I think our listeners will appreciate that as well. And it's you know, start off small, find that one place that that's effective today, and see how you can use AI to improve it even more. So I like that. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think email, you mentioned email, that's a great one to start with too. And there's so many tools around it. And it really gets into the last topic we ask all of our guests, which are, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack? I think of like clay.com. It's like a B2B sort of tool that does a lot of what you're saying in terms of like taking the right message for your email and going outbound with AI and learning from the data. So like, I don't know, maybe there's other ones out there, or what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack?
Yeah. So at RAP, one of the things that we have to always be prepared for is we tend to have capabilities that work across technologies. So essentially, whatever technology that our client has invested in, we operate in that tech stack. So almost all of our solutions tend to be portable across the different platforms. Okay, so that's something that we are prepared for and continue to evolve in. But having said that, going to the essence of the question that you're asking, I'll maybe answer it in a few parts. One, if you just think in terms of AI and generative AI, there is the tussle that is going on in terms of the chat GPTs of the world, where let's say the LLM type of models are large scale, trained on lot of data using huge infrastructure, right? And these, to a certain extent, are proprietary in nature. Some aspects around black box around it. So that's one kind of swim lane or area where there are developments going on. And flip that to where there is like the open source type of solutions that exist that tend to be more transparent and also tend to be smaller, that are use case specific and are not necessarily trained using the greatest of infrastructure, doesn't require the large scale infrastructure that is required for general purpose solutions. So there is a tussle going on between the two in terms of what is appropriate. And my perspective and our perspective on that one, it's not an either or. For any given organization, particularly large enterprises, there is a role for both. Okay, it's a question of what role and for what use case do you use the larger scale solution versus the lighter use case specific solution with full proprietary access and that could be operated within own environments, right? So one, there is a place for both. The second point that I would make is it's important to not lose the side that while there are many different tools and technologies that are popping up, whether that's like the chat GPT, the Copilot, and then there are many different tools that are used to kind of translate from text to image or from text to audio, video. So there are many different tools and technologies that are popping up every day. The one thing that I would say is that it's particularly for a part of the organization, it's important to focus on some core fundamental capabilities. And those capabilities, such as somebody needs to be, from a technical tool point of view, somebody needs to be good at such as SQL or Python, or a platform such as, say, Databricks or something equivalent, right? That could be used then across many different types of technologies, and it could translate into code or solutions that could then work across the technology platforms that exist today, whether it's the different cloud platforms, whether it's AWS or Google, or whether it is stacks such as Adobe or Salesforce, so on and so forth. So it's honing in on the core that are portable across is something that I'm passionate about.
Well, that's a great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Amit, it's been really great having this entire conversation with you. And before we go, would you like to tell the listeners how they can find you?
Definitely. So I'm available on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is Amit Deshpande. And so if folks can definitely reach out to me through messaging on LinkedIn. The second option would be reaching out to me via email. And my email is amit.deshpande@rapp.com. That's RAPP.com. So that's the second way to reach me.
Awesome. Well, yes, great conversation. I know we could probably go on longer, but audience members, we want to make sure and invite you to get powered by BDEX and, just discover how our best in class identity graph technology and Omni IQ will enable you to forge those deeper connections with your audience and drive the unprecedented engagement we're all looking for these days. So just, imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft your audience, and that audience that truly resonates with your brand, ensuring that your marketing efforts, hit the mark every time. But connect with us to learn how BDEX can bring you closer to your marketing goals. We've got a lot we're working on here, and our team is eager to help you. If you're not seeing the QR code on the screen and you're listening on podcast, just simply go to bdex.com and click on Talk to an Expert and get powered by BDEX. And also, for those curious about deconstructing data, we do have sponsorship opportunities. We're just an email away. And you can also email us if there is someone you would like to see on the show. Just reach out to us at info@bdex.com and share your qualitative data with us so we can make this better for you. And thanks again to our guest and our audience. Hope you all have a great week.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for joining us today. This was great. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.